This episode recaps the story of the intense war between some of the Soul Reaper captains and lieutenants and the remaining Espadas in Sosuke Aizen's Arankar army. It concludes with when Ichigo Kurosaki and Ulquiorra Schiffer are about to renew their fight. Ichigo and Ulquiorra's final battle properly gets underway, with the two of them being more or less evenly matched. Ichigo is able to read his opponent's movements better than he could when they first fought, managing to wound Ulquiorra, if even slightly. Ichigo surmises that it is either he is becoming
Jimo like a hollow or his opponent is becoming more human, which angers Ulquiorra. Meanwhile, Yasutara, Chad Sado and Renji Abarai struggle to fight a gigantic hollow in the desert of Yuko Mundo named Battikaroa,
eventually claiming victory after discovering its weakness by blasting its head off after cracking its body. Back in a tower of Las Noches, Orihime Inoue manages to protect Ichigo from a near-lethal attack from Ulquiorra.
Ichigo and Ulquiorra continue their fierce fight as Loli Averne and Manoli Malia approach Orihime. Although Loli orders Manoli to rip Orihime to shreds, Manoli refuses, telling Loli that Orihime has outstanding power which can heal anything. Loli berates Manoli and begins to torture Orihime by herself as Ichigo tries to reach Orihime despite Ulquiorra blocking him. When Yami Realgo suddenly arrives, he kills Manoli and injures Loli when Ulquiorra refuses to let him fight Ichigo. Orihime heals Loli, who then releases her Zanpakuto, Escolopendra, reveal
ing herself with multiple venomous skeletal tentacles. As Loli squares off with Yami, he punches her through the wall and lets her fall, seemingly to her death. He then aims for Orihime, who tries to
defend herself with Sunten Keshin as Ichigo still tries to defeat Ulquiorra. Meanwhile, Rukia Kuchiki continues to fight Redborn Chelut and the Exequias as Chad and Renji slaughter more hollows.
Ryu Ishida bursts through the wall of the tower with Ginrei Kojaku, preparing to aid Ichigo and rescue Orihime. Ryu fights Yami separate from the group, using the majority of his Quincy techniques to attempt to defeat this giant Arankar, all the while luring him into a trap. Using mines he had gotten from Mayuri Kuretsuchi and planting them on every floor of the 5th tower, Ryu succeeds in popping Yami all the way to ground level. Meanwhile, Rukia has difficulty in dispatching Rudborn and the Exequias until Chad and Renji show up to give her a hand. Ichigo, still battling Ulquiorra, NS his hollow mask and starts to overwhelm his opponent. Ulquiorra breaks through the canopy of Las Noches in order to release his Zanpakuto, Murcielago, while stating the only 2 rules for inside of Las Noches. The first rule is Grand Rey Cero and the second rule is Espadas 1 to 4 cannot release their Zanpakuto. His sword release gives him large bat-like wings, raising his abilities to the point where he nearly decapitates Ichigo with his first attack. Ichigo tries to fend off Ulquiorra's attacks with mixed results. However, he declares that he will never give up even if this Arankar is stronger than he is. Ulquiorra responds by transforming into his second release, which he claims Aizen himself has not seen. Ichigo attempts to defend himself and get in an attack, but Ulquiorra is too fast and powerful for him. Eventually, when Orihime and Ryu reach the surface, they discover that Ichigo has already been defeated and captured by Ulquiorra, who then tells Orihime to watch how he will extinguish her last hope by killing Ichigo. With that, he punches a hole through Ichigo's chest by firing his Cero Oscuras. A horrified Orihime rushes to Ichigo's lifeless body, only to be blocked by Ulquiorra. Ryu intervenes and attempts a sneak attack yet fails, but he decides to buy Orihime time to heal Ichigo's wounds. Ulquiorra quickly overwhelms him, while a distraught Orihime cries out for Ichigo. Orihime's lament breakdown unexpectedly triggers Ichigo to undergo a new hollowification. Ulquiorra, surprised at the transformation, unleashes a Cero Oscuras, but only to have it blocked by Ichigo's own Cero. After a quick skirmish,
Ichigo manages to sever one of Ulquiorra's arms. Ulquiorra reveals his incredible ability to regenerate non-vital organs instantaneously. He regenerates his
red arm and unveils his most devastating attack, Lanza del Relampago. The attack proves fruitless as Ichigo dodges it without effort and Ulquiorra is quickly overwhelmed and defeated. As Rudborn continuously produces more soldiers to defend him, Chad and Renji attack him simultaneously, with them breaking his defense while Rukia freezes Rudborn, who is then finished off by Yami, who abruptly arrives at the scene. Meanwhile,
in his new hollow form, Ichigo finishes Ulquiorra point blank with his Zero, but when Yuryu stops him, trying to end his merciless attacks, Ichigo stabs Yuryu with his Zanpakuto.
Ulquiorra awakes and interrupts Ichigo from using his Zero on Ryu, causing it to backfire on Ichigo and reverting him back to his normal self. Although Ulquiorra demands to have a rematch with Ichigo, the latter compromises by suggesting an even-leveled fight. Ulquiorra, agreeing to his terms, suddenly realizes his body is expiring due to overexhaustion of his own power, yet Ichigo refuses to kill him. While his body turns to ash, Ulquiorra remembers his conversations with Orihime and realizes he has grown a heart within himself. Ulquiorra asks Orihime if she is afraid of him, and she replies that she is not.
Satisfied with her answer, Ulquiorra dissolves and fades into the winds. 273, Fury of the Shark. Halibal's release. Transcription, Same no Mua. Haraibaru Kaiho, Japanese. June 1, 2010, September 30th.
2012. Yami becomes enraged at Ulquiorra's death and releases his Zanpakuto, Ira. He grows to a colossal size and his rank increases from 10 to 0, explaining that the espadas actually rank from 0 to 9.
Rukia, Chad and Renji go all out on him, but he successfully blocks all their attacks. Meanwhile, in the fake Karakura town, Halibal continues her fight with Toshiro Hitsugaye. Halibal releases her sword, Tiburon, and slices Hitsugaya's body in two. As she attempts to move toward Genrusei Shigekuni Yamamoto to exact revenge on him for destroying her fractions, the Tres Bestias.
Hitsugaya reappears and reveals what she sliced was merely an ice illusion. Hitsugaya and Halibal use an array of water and ice attacks. Since Hitsugaya can turn any water into ice, and Halibal can turn any ice into water, both of their attacks neutralize each other out. However, both of them have a plan to turn the battleground into water and finish off the opponent in a single blow. As Hitsugaya tries to keep up with Halibal and protect the injured Soul Reaper lieutenants, he is injured severely from Halibal's Cascada. When Halibal comments on Hitsugaya not being able to fight at full strength, Hitsugaya stands up and extols at Hirinmaru being the strongest of all snow and ice Zanpakuto, which gives the wielder the control of the heavens. He is then about to unleash his strongest attack.
Hayaten Hayakaso. Hitsugaya releases his Hayaten Hayakaso, an attack that manipulates the weather, then uses it to dramatically increase its power, and successfully freezes Halibal, trapping her in a tower of ice. Meanwhile, Suifeng and Marechio Omaida continue their fight against Baragan Luvesemben. He slows Suifeng's reaction time, making her unable to land any of her attacks on him.
Then grabs her left shoulder, aging it to the point that it breaks from frailty. Suifeng and Omaida devise a strategy to attack Baragan, but Omaida hesitates at the last moment and it fails.
Baragan then releases his Zanpakuto, Arrogant, and unleashes his Respira, a dark cloud that decays everything in its path. His Respira chases after Suifeng and manages to reach her left hand,
which withers it down to the bone and begins to spread up her arm. Suifeng, realizing that her whole body will decay into nothing unless drastic action is taken, orders Omaida to cut off her
left arm before the Respira can spread further. Suifeng and Omaida find themselves in a bad situation against Baragan's Respira. They cannot even counterattack Respira because they cannot get anywhere near it. Then, Suifeng goes off somewhere, leaving Omaida to fight Baragan alone. Omaida tries to buy time with various ideas but finds himself impotent against Baragan. Just when Omaida is backed into a corner, Suifeng arrives.
Having released her Bankai, a large golden weapon that covers her entire right arm. She then fires a missile at Baragan, which leads to a massive explosion. The massive explosion sends Suifeng flying.
But Omaida manages to catch her, protecting her from crashing into a building. Shunsui Kyoriko and Coyote Stark continue their fight as Stark pressures Kyoriko to reveal his Bankai.
Stark then calls for Lilynette Jingerbuck and he fuses together with her in order to release his Zanpakuto, Los Lobos, dressing like a gunslinger. The fight resumes as Stark gains the upper hand. Confusing Kiraku is how his pair of guns function. As Kiraku is in trouble with Stark's Sero, Jashiro Yukataki uses his Shikai, which leaves Stark questioning if Yukataki just fired a Sero. Kiraku allows Yukataki to join him in fighting Stark, who notices Ukitake's Shikai, which absorbs his Sero and shoots it back out again. Just then, a huge Garganta opens up and reveals Wonderweiss.
Murgara and another gigantic hollow named Hulir next to him. Wonderweiss stabs Ukitake in the chest while Stark shoots Kyoriko with a Sero, making both Kyoriko and Ukitake faint to the ground. Wonderweiss then screams loudly,
shattering the ice that Hannibal was trapped in and allowing her to escape unharmed. Wonderweiss then blows out the smoke remaining from the missile out of Baragan, making him resume his place.
Wonderweiss finally has Hulir blow away the flames surrounding Aizen, Jin Ichimaru and Kaname Tozen. Just when the Soul Reapers begin to panic, the wizards make an unsuspect
arrival at the fake Karakura town right in front of Aizen, Jin and Tosen. 101 years ago, it is revealed how Aizen experimented hollowification on a group of Soul Reapers, when they were sent into exile and why they called themselves the Wizards. In the present, Shinji Hirako explains to Yamamoto that the Wizards are not the allies of the Soul Reapers, but the enemies of Aizen, yet Ichigo is the exception.
Wonderweiss commands Hulir to release a lot of Menos, but the Wizards quickly defeat them. Hirako, later confronting Aizen, is stopped by Tozen, who is then intervened by Sergeant Komamura. Hannibal breaks out of the ice and attacks Hatsugaya, but Hiyori Sarugaki backs him up and Lisa Yadomaru comes to assist her. Mashiro Kuna easily defeats Hulir, while Love Aikawa and Rose Otoribashi confront Stark. Komamura and Tozen are quickly interrupted by Shuhei Hisagi, who wants to join Komamura in defeating Tozen.
Hisagi joins Komamura to battle Tosen in hopes of bringing his former captain back to his senses. Meanwhile, the other Soul Reapers form uneasy alliances with the Wizards. Lisa,
Hiyori and Hatsugaya take on Hannibal, Love and Rose cover for Kyoriko and Ukitake and face Stark, and Hachigan, Hachi, Ushoda, Suifang and Omaida are up against Baragan. Hachi creates a barrier around Baragan.
Yet he easily dissipates it. Hachi makes an armored wall between the three of them and Baragan to buy some time. Hachi asks Sui Feng to use her Bankai again in exchange for a deal. Baragan survived the first time she used it because he made the missile age and redirected the explosion away from him. When Hachi boxes Baragan in with 3 more armored walls around him,
Sui Feng fire her Bankai to defeat Baragan once more, granted that Hachi will seal Kisuko Urahara in a barrier for 1 month. Hirako, though failing to sneak up on Jin, remarks that one more of Aizen's allies have fallen. Baragan survives Sui Feng's Bankai, though half his face has been destroyed. In anger, he fires out his Respira attack until he rots away Hachi's right hand. However, Hachi
removes his hand using a barrier and transports it inside Baragan's body, causing him to start deteriorating painfully. In a flashback, it is revealed he was once the ruler of Hawako Mundo until dethroned by Aizen, Jin and Tosen. In the present, Baragan, taking his final moments to remember his vow to reclaim his throne someday, tosses his axe at Aizen, but it disintegrates and Baragan dies. RK shows distress at his death and vows to avenge him. Stark shows no sign of getting serious in his battle against Love and Rose. Running out of patience, Lilynette begins to mindlessly fire at the 2 wizards without Stark's permission. But her attacks prove to be ineffective against the 2, and she is gradually cornered by the pair's fine team play. Finally, Love hits Stark, throwing him into a sea of flames. Lisa, Hiyori and Hitsugaya are having an argument about their difficulty with coordinating their attacks against Hannibal. With Lilynette's motivation, Stark then summons a pack of wolves, made from parts of their souls, which explode on impact. When his victory seems assured, Stark is unexpectedly stabbed in the back. It is revealed that Kyoraku was the one who had stabbed Stark in the back.
Kyoraku then explains that his Zanpakuto has 4 techniques in the form of children's games turned into reality. Stark catches on quickly and learns to use Kyoraku's attacks against him. However,
Lilynette sacrifices her life for Stark by absorbing a fatal attack from Kyoraku that Stark was unable to block in time. Showing distress at her death, Stark nearly defeats Kyoraku at one point. Instead,
Kyoraku finishes Stark off by targeting his hollow hole, dealing a massive amount of damage to Stark. As Stark dies, a flashback reveals Stark's first encounter with Lilynette in Hukomando. Meanwhile, Aizen,
growing tired of the battles, decides he no longer needs Hannibal and slashes her. When Hannibal was a Vasto Lord long ago, she recruited Emilo Apache, Francesca Mila Rose and Cyan Sung's son to be the Trace Bestias, tasked to grow stronger and to kill ravenous hollows. The quartet later encountered Baragan when he was king of Hueco Mundo, who offered her to join his side, but she declined,
also wounding a shark-like hollow who approached her. After Aizen, Jin and Tozen arrived in Hukomando to recruit Baragan, Aizen also took an interest in Halibal. Sometime later, Halibal
is attacked by the shark-like hollow, which has now turned into an Arankar. Although the Trace Bestias tried to help her, they are eventually defeated. Just when the shark-like Arankar is about to kill Hannibal, Aizen suddenly appeared and killed the Arankar, then offering Hannibal a place in his Arankar army and telling her that no one would have to be sacrificed in order to grow stronger. In the present, Hannibal angrily attacks Aizen, but she is then stabbed in the back of her left shoulder by Aizen, who used an illusion to deceive her, sending her plummeting into the city below. Aizen then challenges the Soul Reapers and Wizards in combat. Wunderweiss battles Mashiro, who takes the upper hand until her hollow mask breaks. Before Wunderweiss can finish her off, Kensai Muguruma steps in to save her and takes her place, soon releasing his Bankai at Wunderweiss. Meanwhile, Hiyori explains to Aizen why the Wizards have a score to settle with him, due to their painful experiences EY endured 101 years ago. Although Hirako warns the others not to fall for Aizen's taunts, Hiyori gives in and rushes in for an attack at Aizen, only to be stabbed in the back by Jin, badly injuring her.
Hirako catches Hiyori, who then apologizes for not being able to hold back. Hirako calls for Ichigo, realizing that Orihime can still heal her. Meanwhile, back in Hukomando, Ichigo has gone to help Rukia.
Chad and Renji, the three are still in a battle with Yami, trying to come up with tricks to defeat him but are ultimately defeated. Ichigo manages to reach where Rukia, Chad, and Renji were after Rukia was thrown by Yami. Ichigo manages to cut Yami slightly with a point-blank Getsuga Tensho using a new hollow mask, but is unable to wear it again. Yami takes advantage of the situation and grabs Ichigo,
with an intent of crushing Ichigo with his bare hands. Byakuya Kuchiki and Kenpachi Zaraki save Ichigo, having cut one of Yami's legs off. Mayuri arrives and tells everyone that he has managed to analyze the Gargantua and offers to send Ichigo back to Karakura town through it. Byakuya reminds Ichigo that his duty is supposed to be protecting Karakura town, not fighting at Hukomando.
Retsuyu no Hana decides to go along with Ichigo to the world of the living. In this special episode, Ichigo and a number of other characters take part in an alternate world that hinges closely on the stories of Aladdin and the magic lamp. Ichigo finds out that this is all a dream and strives to wake up, while the others are intent on finding a hidden treasure called the Snow Crystal. Throughout a series of misadventures, Ichigo and the others encounter a magic lamp in a temple with the power to grant 3 wishes by a genie, in the form of Rukia, but by breaking the laws of granting wishes to them, she is sentenced to be executed in the Lamp Society. Ichigo and the others go to rescue her, and by doing so, Ichigo is then granted the 3rd and final wish. Instead of wishing to wake up from the dream he is supposedly having, he opts for the snow crystal. However, when it appears as a fish cake, it is revealed that the whole ordeal was dreamed up by Azane Kotetsu in the Soul Society. The battle between Kenpachi and Yami continues, as the former seems to have the upper hand. Meanwhile, Ichigo and Unohana head for the world of the living through the Garganta opened by Mayuri, who discusses the after-war period with Byakuya. Unohana reveals to Ichigo that he is the only person who can defeat Aizen, since he is the only one that did not witness Aizen's Shikai. Also informing him that, seeing Aizen's Shikai is out of the question. Ichigo, realizing his great responsibility, resolves to defeat Aizen. Back in Hawako Mundo, Kenpachi is still dominating Yami's, seemingly defeating him and prompting Byakuya to finish him off, who refuses to do so, as Yami suddenly fires a Sero at both captains. Kenpachi scolds Byakuya for being useless and not finishing off Yami earlier.
Byakuya gets angry, squares off with Kenpachi to see who is stronger. Yami attempts to attack, but is promptly struck down by both Byakuya and Kenpachi for interrupting their feud. Yami gets angry and grows into an altered form, revealing that his rage lets him become stronger. Meanwhile, after Jin had injured Hiyori, Hiriko then confronts Aizen. When Tozen decides to use his true power against Hisagi and Komamura,
he shocks them by donning a hollow mask instead of using his Bankai. Hisagi and Komamura are both disheartened to see how far Tosen has gone to attain more power. Tosen quickly dispatches Hisagi with a slash across his chest and kicks Komamura to the ground below. Hisagi, who sidestepped the slash, restrains Tosen, who then stabs him through the chest again. Afterwards, Komamura prepares to release his Bankai. In the past, it is shown how Komamura and Tosen met as friends, later revealing that Komamura wanted to repay a debt as his reason for becoming a Soul Reaper. In the present,
Komamura activates his Bankai but is blocked continually by Tozen, who later discovers that he can cause damage to Komamura himself whenever his Bankai is damaged. Komamura learns
that Tosen had lost a beloved female friend to murder by her husband, and he had joined the academy in order to get his revenge for her demise, being the truth behind his relentless search for justice. Tosen then activates his release form, taking the form of a hairy insect. When he opens his eyes in this new form, Tosen exults that he can see the world for the first time. Meanwhile, Aizen finally draws his blade against Hiriko. Nonetheless, Hiriko then tells Aizen that he is sorely mistaken if he believes he is the only one with a Zanpakuto that has power over the senses. Tosen does not seem to fight as well in his new form now that he can see, but he still easily defeats Komamura with a Sero. As he charges another Sero to finish Komamura, who has given up, Hisagi stabs Tosen, then claims that if he did not have sight,
he could have easily dodged his attack. Hisagi releases his Zanpakuto and slices Tozen through the neck, dispelling his hollow feet form. Meanwhile, Hiriko releases his Shikai,
having the ability to create great visual illusions, which he calls the inverted world. Hiriko seems to have the upper hand and hits Aizen several times. However, Aizen, having messed with Hiriko's senses earlier, slices Hiriko's back, claiming that his Zanpakuto is more superior. The defeated Tosen comes to his senses and requests to see Hisagi's face clearly once more, but he dies.
An internal impact destroys his body. Hisagi is devastated while Komamura rages at Aizen, who purposely killed Tozen. At this point, Ichigo appears behind Aizen preparing to attack him. Ichigo, failing to wound Aizen,
is easily overwhelmed yet remains alive. As Aizen starts questioning Ichigo's purpose for fighting him, Komamura calms him and tells him to not fall for his ruse. All of the Soul Reapers and Vizards then join in to protect Ichigo from witnessing Aizen's Shikai, to enable him to finish Aizen off. However, after Hitsugaya charges in, Aizen provokes him to attack with all his hatred. Aizen mentions Momo Hinamori and if the hatred had disappeared because of her, and Hitsugaya furiously attacks him. Hitsugaya releases his Bankai as the other Soul Reapers join him.
Komamura, Love, Rose and Lisa join Hatsugaya in fighting Aizen, but all four are easily defeated. Suifang, Kyoraku and Hirako manage to confuse Aizen, allowing Hatsugaya to deal the final blow on him.
As the Soul Reapers cheer on Aizen's defeat, a shocked Ichigo yells at them, asking them what they are doing. It is revealed that everybody except for Ichigo W.
As under Aizen's Shikai illusion and Hatsugaya had mistakenly stabbed Momo, while Aizen reveals himself to be acting as Momo. Enraged, Hatsugaya charges at Aizen but is cut down, his left limbs cut off. Suifang,
Kiraku and Hirako attempt to attack Aizen, but all are cut down as well. After defeating his oncoming opponents, Aizen stabs Yamamoto, who then creates pillars of flames to trap him, which will kill not only Aizen, but everyone else in the process. However, Wunderweiss appears and extinguishes Yamamoto's flames, revealing himself to have the ability to nullify Ryujin Jaka. Yamamoto and Wunderweiss engage in unarmed combat, in which the former shatters the latter's body to pieces using hand-to-hand techniques. As Yamamoto stands before Aizen again, Wunderweiss unleashes the flames sealed in his body as he dies. Yamamoto uses his body to minimize the damage the explosion causes. Aizen approaches the immobile Yamamoto and prepares to finish him off, but Yamamoto uses his body as a catalyst for his Ido Kuso,
the Forbidden Kido spell of sacrifice, and catches Aizen in the ensuing explosion. As Aizen manages to get away relatively unscathed, Ichigo attacks him. Ichigo, with his donned hollow mask,
uses Getsuga Tensho to attack Aizen, wounding him in the process. However, it is revealed that Aizen has fused with the Hogyoku, which heals his wounded chest. It is revealed that all of the battles Ichigo has fought thus far were part of Aizen's plan, as such these battles are recapped. His first encounter with Rukia against a hollow, his first time fighting with Iryu against several hollows, his first fight with Renji and interference from Byakuya, his first training session with Urahara, his successful rematch with Renji, his first intense match with Kenpachi and his fierce confrontation with Byakuya and use of his hollow powers are all shown. The recap ends after Ichigo's invitation by Hirako to join the Wizards, his first battle with Yami witnessed by Ulquiorra. In the world of the living and interruption by Urahara and Yoruichi Shihoin, his training with the Wizards to improve his hollow powers, his first fight with Ulquiorra using his hollow powers, his Al match with Grimjow Jaegerjaquez and his triumph over Ulquiorra in his altered Hollowfeed form are shown. Aizen had been recording all of his battles and had set up the events that occurred up to this point as well. Aizen then reveals that he knew about him since his birth, trying to tell Ichigo he is part human, but his speech is interrupted by Ichigo's father, Isshin Kurosaki, in Soul Reaper form. After putting some distance along with Ichigo from Aizen, Isshin tries to tell his son that he will reveal the truth about his actions later, but Ichigo tells him that there is no need for that, as he realizes he is indeed half Soul Reaper. Isshin then attacks Aizen, while Ichigo confronts Jin. While fighting Ichigo, Jin activates his Bankai, which allows him to extend his blade to great lengths, stating that he will not hold back unlike the last time they fought each other. Although Ichigo blocks his first attack, Jin charges at Ichigo with rapid attacks. Ichigo figures out that Jin's contraction speed is his weakness, but his extension speed is quite the opposite. Elsewhere, as the battle between Aizen and Isshin still rages on, the former reveals that he has reached the limit of his Soul Reaper self. Subsequently, the Hogyoku begins to reconstruct his soul. In shock, Isshin discovers through Aizen's statements the true power of the Hogyoku, which is to manifest the desires of all the people within its vicinity. As Aizen's transformation intensifies, Urahara arrives to participate in the battle. This is a special episode to promote the fourth movie, Bleach, Hellverse. In the Soul Society,
all Soul Reapers of the 13 Court Guard squads have formed teams in order to make a successful movie. Ichigo, Oraheim, Yuryu, Chad, Rukia, Renji, Byakuya and Rangiku Matsumoto am up to make a movie named
Intergalactic Maid Cop vs. the Space Invaders of Doom from Another Planet Part 1. Renji, as the director of this improvised film, assigns a Ryu as the costume designer and cameraman and Byakuya as the visual effects supervisor, and distributes roles to the rest of the crew. Ichigo, as a high school Soul Reaper, must save Rukia, the intergalactic maid cop, being held hostage by Rangaku, the evil criminal alien mastermind, who has Orihime and Chad under her mind control. After a skirmish with the Guardians of Sokyoku Hill, the movie then ends. This is a short prologue from the fourth movie.
Bleach. Hellverse. After returning merchandise to the Urahara shop, Rukia finds Zenosuke Kurumadani, the Soul Reaper guardian of Karakura town, who is attacked by a strange monster revealed to be Shrika,
the frog-like hollow that Ichigo defeated and banished to hell. Now a sinner, that being an unforgivable denizen of hell and forever bound by chains, Shrieker reveals that he can exit hell at will. Renji arrives to assist Rukia in defeating Shrieker and sending him back to hell. After learning of the incident, Yamamoto calls for an emergency meeting and decides to send Renji and Rukia to investigate.
But he warns them not to involve Ichigo. In hell, Sailaporo grants and Aroniero Irururi, dead after their battles with the Soul Reapers, encounter Sharan, Taikon, Gunjo and Garogai,
all of whom were sinners. Shielaporo and Aroniero attack Shuren, but are easily defeated. Disappointed, Shuren turns his attention to Ichigo's hollow-feed form as a means of escaping the depths of hell.
Urahara arrives to stop Aizen. Urahara has prepared a few tricks up his sleeve for the fight, including some special armor for Yodishi when she later arrives as well. Urahara,
Yoruichi and Isshin all engage Aizen, but with every passing second, he becomes stronger and changes his appearance due to being infused with the Hogyoku. Meanwhile, the battle between Ichigo and Jin continues.
The episode ends with Rangiku running towards Jin. Ichigo hollow-feeds and attacks Jin, but Jin slices off Ichigo's hollow mask. While Urahara, Yodishi and Isshin continue to fight Aizen, Rangiku is seen by Izuru Kira running towards Jin. Uninterested in Ichigo anymore, Jin tells Ichigo to get lost. Just when Jin is about to kill Ichigo, Aizen appears behind Ichigo, revealing to have defeated Urahara, Yodishi and Isshin. Aizen and Jin leave to go to the real Karakura town. In the Dangai, they encounter the Kototsu. Jin tries to tell Aizen it would be impossible to destroy it, and yet Aizen succeeds with a single blow. Ichigo and Isshin go into the Dangai after them. After realizing Aizen must have destroyed the Kototsu, Isshin tells Ichigo he will teach him the final Getsuga Tensho. The Dangai reduces time to the point that if one were to stay in that world for 2,000 hours, which is more or less 3 months, only 1 hour will have passed in the outside world, making it ideal for training purposes now that the Kotatsu has been destroyed. Isshin devises a method for Ichigo to learn the final Getsuga Tensho in 2,000 hours in that world. To do that, Ichigo must directly contact his Zanpakuto. Once entering his inner world, he meets the spirit of his Bankai, Tensa Zanjetsu, who refuses to cooperate with him and pulls out the source of his despair, which turns out to be Ichigo's inner hollow. Meanwhile, in the real Karakura town, Keigo Asano and Tatsuki Arisawa both wake up and wander through the town, pondering what has happened to them. Aizen finds and confronts Arisawa, paralyzing her with his spiritual pressure, while Jin lets Keigo run away. The female Soul Reapers of the Soul Society celebrate New Year's Day by sending out cards to the other divisions. However, some of the male Soul Reapers voice their complaints about the card designs. To settle the matter, the cards are used in a game of Karuta. The game goes out of control when the players start attacking each other for the right card in each round. Meanwhile, in the world of the living, the story lies on Orihime thinking about everyone being with their family. Orihime comes across Rukia and Renji, who were on their way to the local shrine festival. The three stop by at the Urahara shop to visit Urahara and Yoruichi for the afternoon, but Renji is not enjoying his stay there. Rukia takes Orihime to the local shrine in the evening, and even though the place is empty,
Orihime shockingly sees Ichigo, Ryu, Chad and Renji there as well. She prays that they all can share another wonderful year together. In this dreamlike scenario, Ichigo and his friends appear as various monsters, him being in the form of Frankenstein's monster. He is summoned to a meeting with them in a castle, about protecting the snow crystal from the monster hunters, Isshin and Rukin Ishida. When the two monster hunters arrive, the monsters do everything they can to stop their opponents. However, Ichigo just wants the snow crystal for himself so he can turn human and wake up from the dream. When the snow crystal is found missing, Isshin and Rukin abruptly leave after Ichigo and Ryu, in form of a vampire, prepare to attack. After it is revealed that Rukia, in the form of a succubus, is the snow crystal, Ichigo transforms into a wolf. It is shown that the whole ordeal was dreamed up by Komamura in the Soul Society. As Hisagi and Kira finish some paperwork and go to a restaurant to have some drinks, they briefly run into some of the female Soul Reapers, who thank Hisagi for making lunch for their girls' night out. Later, Hitsugaya has Hisagi, Rangaku and Azane investigate some mysterious murders in the Rukongai. Hisagi and Rangaku go on ahead through a field when it begins to rain. After waiting a while till the rain lets up, a hot springs inn manager invites the two inside her inn to have them rest and relax. Rangaku has her suspicions with the inn manager, but Hisagi is ever so struggling with his feelings for Rangaku. It becomes even more difficult when Rangaku goes to take a hot bath, which gives Hisagi the urge to take a peek past the door. When Hisagi finally musters up the courage to open the door, Rangaku, who is still in her uniform, attacks past Hisagi and hits the inn manager, who is revealed to be a hollow. After the two defeat the hollow, Rangaku explains that she used Hisagi as bait to lure out the hollow in the first place. Tensa Zangetsu shows Ichigo his inner hollow, revealing to him it was the form he defeated Ulquiorra in. Zangetsu then joins with the inner hollow, revealing that they were one to begin with,
and resumes his battle with Ichigo. Meanwhile, Don Kanonji arrives between Tatsuki and Aizen and becomes determined to fight against him, that is until Rangiku arrives just
in time to stop him from getting killed. She instructs Kanonji to take Tatsuki with him, whilst she and Jin go somewhere. As Tatsuki and Kanonji reunite with Keigo, Jin wounds Rangaku and rejoins Aizen in chasing after them.
Some of Ichigo's classmates, Kanonji and even Kurumadani make various attempts to stop Aizen but they all fail. Then, Jin returns and tells Aizen that he eliminated Rangiku.
And Aizen claims he will begin creating the Okain after he kills Ichigo's friends. Jin then pulls a surprising move by grabbing Aizen's Zanpakuto and then impaling him through the chest. Jin reveals that the true ability of his Bankai turns his Zanpakuto to dust when it contracts and retracts, capable of leaving a lethal poison in one's body that dissolves it at a cellular rate. Aizen begins to perish as Jin escapes with the Hogyoku in hand. However, the Hogyoku, still belonging to Aizen whether or not it is inside him, evolves him to an even greater form as a result. Jin has a momentary flashback of when he first saw Aizen with Rangaku unconscious on the ground, which encouraged him to kill the former. In the present, the newly evolved Aizen teleports to Jin's location and brutally slashes him across the middle. Jin recalls apologizing to Rangaku after slightly wounding her from before and is satisfied with that. Before Aizen tries to kill Rangaku, Ichigo shows up on the scene with his unconscious father over his shoulder. Jin, seeing the changed look in Ichigo's eyes, rests in peace, content with what he had done. Ichigo wishes to change the location of their fight and jumps at Aizen, grabbing his face and pushing him many miles away from the town. Aizen, still believing that he can easily defeat him, surmises that Ichigo has not lost his spiritual pressure, rather he has discarded it in turn for physical strength. Each swing in the clash between the two is powerful enough to annihilate large amounts of terrain. Aizen becomes increasingly arrogant and is shocked once again when Ichigo effortlessly stops his blade with his bare hand.
Aizen unleashes a complete incantation of the allegedly unstoppable Kurohitsuki Kido spell upon Ichigo, yet proving to be of no effect. Ichigo wounds Aizen, forcing the Hogyoku yet another transformation upon Aizen, who becomes a hollow-like creature. Although Aizen renders Ichigo's left arm useless, Ichigo then unleashes the final Getsuga Tensho. Through a flashback,
it is revealed that while in his inner world, Ichigo could not defeat Tensa Zangetsu until he allowed to be pierced by Tensa Zangetsu, thereby accepting the blade and the consequences of the technique. Unleashing this attack allows Ichigo to actually become the attack itself, which would strip him of his Soul Reaper powers. He unleashes a torrent of darkness that enshrouds the land and overwhelms Aizen. However, Aizen prepares to finish off a weakened Ichigo thanks to the Hogyoku, only to be stopped by Urahara, who steps onto the scene. Urahara planted her Kido inside of the Kido he shot just before Aizen transformed the first time as a sealing process. Now that his power has been weakened by Ichigo, the seal has begun to work and the Hogyoku no longer sees him as its master, resulting in him being sealed. In the aftermath of the Winter War, all of the Soul Reapers momentarily return to the Soul Society and begin to recuperate. It is shown that
Anohara healed all of the wizards including Hiyori, but ultimately it is up to her own will if she is to survive. Byakuya and Kenpachi have defeated Yami in Hyukomando. Ichigo questions Urahara what
Aizen's true motives might have been the whole time. When Ichigo reunites with his friends, he suddenly blacks out. In Central 46, Aizen is sentenced to 20,000 years in the lowest underground level of the prison. Yamamoto, now without a left arm, is maddened that Byakuya, Kenpachi and Kiraku lost their coats during their battles. Hitsugaya is seen training with his Bankai inside a cave, looking back at the incident when he accidentally stabbed Momo during his battle. Rangaku is thankful that Jin never left a memento when he separated from her during his defection with Aizen. In Rukia's house, Ichigo wakes up after 10 days. And it is revealed that his hair length and body height have returned to normal, having gone through the first couple of stages in losing his powers. It is only a matter of an undetermined time before he permanently loses them. However, Ichigo is mainly glad to see all of his friends alive and well. While Kon tries to rescue a girl from being attacked by a hollow, a mysterious person named Michelle intervenes and defeats it instead, much to Kon's dismay. After going back to the Urahara shop to meet with the other team members, Kon was not aware that Michelle Zhu Tisa happens to be a famous spiritualist. The Kanso cop Karakurizer is assigned to investigate about a female Arankar they previously defeated that has returned to seek vengeance. After they run into Michelle in the streets, a hollow appears. Kon tries to attack it, but to no avail, yet Michelle easily defeats the hollow in a single blow. Kon is gradually getting suspicious of Michelle, who later publicly announces that he is giving the rest of the team members special capes. After the other members pass out, Arasawa, coming to her senses, is blindsided when Michelle reveals that he was sent to Inva. Did the town and to place everyone under hypnosis, and the capes were designed to drain their spiritual energies. Kon steps in and fights Michelle, knocking out his tooth which was the source of his hypnosis. In retaliation, Michelle transforms into a hollow. Kon eventually defeats Michelle, which dissolves all the capes. Omaeda, realizing he overslept from his nap on his way to a meeting with Sui Feng, falls off a cliff and lands on a hollow who was attacking a boy. When the hollow retreats, Omaeda, claiming to be the captain of the 2nd Division, is invited by the boy named Ryuzaburo back to his village, where the villagers serve Omaeda food to express their gratitude for saving Ryuzaburo. The next day, Omaeda rushes back to the 2nd Division barracks and apologizes to Sui Feng, who states that his absence was not missed, but she assigned him to clean up the Sireti grounds alone as punishment. Meanwhile, Ichigo and Yodishi allow Ryuzaburo and his 2 friends into the Sireti to find the captain of the 2nd Division. When they arrive at the 2nd Division barracks, Omeda begs Ichigo and Yoruichi to go along with the story, to which Yoruichi agrees and Ichigo is rather reluctant.
While Omaida and the three boys are walking in the streets, they cross paths with Ikkaku Madaram and Yumichika Aesegawa, who, through explanation from Ichigo and Yodishi, play along with the story in order to get some cash from Omaida. Yumichika then tells Rangiku, who brings tea to Omaida, to follow as well. In the end, even Suifung plays along with the story by doing chores for Omaida after being persuaded by Yodishi.
However, at the end of the day, the three boys overhear Akaku and Yumashika discussing the fact that Omaida would never become a captain. Ryuzaburo becomes angry at Omaida and runs home, only to be stopped by the hollow from the day before, but Omaida saves him and bids him farewell. The three boys return to their village and Sui Feng beats Omaida up for insulting her. While Ichigo is sparring with Renji, a man from the 11th Division named Shizo Harugasaki serves the two of them some tea, but everyone seems to disrespect him while he does his duties. It is later revealed by Yumashika that Shizo was once a strong warrior. However, while Shizo was paired with Akaku to kill a hollow, the latter was captured and about to lose his spiritual energy. Azo took the attack instead and lost almost all his spiritual energy, and as a result no one respected him after that. Ichigo talks to Shizo, and after regaining his confidence in his skills, he defeats a group of hollows alongside Akaku. Shizo leaves the 13 court guard squads with all of the 11th Division members including Akaku bowing down to him in respect. Kon yells out the window about his imprisonment in Ichigo's room. Just then, a pretty lady walks by and asks for directions, which Ichigo gives her. After Ichigo is summoned to take down a hollow, Kon spots the lady from Beef. Or while taking a stroll on a bridge in Ichigo's body. Seeing as she is about to jump off the bridge, he runs to save her, but ends up falling off instead. Later on, the girl, recognized as Haruko, reveals that she can see spirits, which caused her boyfriend Ken to break up with her. Ichigo finds Rukia, who tells him that there has been an unknown hollow that has been sucking out the souls of humans. When Haruko leaves Kon, she is attacked by a tapeworm hollow using a male human as its host, but Kon arrives just in time to save her. Kon departs after Ken arrives and apologizes to Haruko for what he did. However, the tapeworm hollow actually took over his body without Kon's knowing. Kon runs back to find out that Haruko is now possessed by the tapeworm hollow. Kon fights Haruko and manages to get the tapeworm hollow out of her. Kon is shoved against a tree, and his pill pops out of Ichigo's body, no longer in control of it. Before Kon's pill form is eaten, he is saved by Ichigo, who then kills the tapeworm hollow.
Haruko mistakes Ichigo for Kon and decides to take Ichigo as her boyfriend and leave Ken, but Rukia arrives and uses her memory erasing spray on Hakuro and Ken. Haruko and
Ken hold hands and resume their relationship, knowing nothing of what happened. Yakiru Kusajishi encounters an old friend named Masayoshi, who saved a girl named Mayu from a hollow. Masayoshi starts to tell the two about how a hollow killed his wife. Mayu, having had her parents killed by that same hollow, starts to feel a bit close to Masayoshi. Yakiru goes back home to Kenpachi, and she remembers that Masayoshi used to be close to her in the past. She goes to see Masayoshi and Mayu again the next day, and Masayoshi kills another hollow that only he could sense. Masayoshi plans to leave the following day, and Mayu asks if she could travel with him. However, Yakiru, before leaving again, privately warns Mayu not to get too close to Masayoshi. The following day, Masayoshi protects Mayu from a group of hollows, asking her to accompany him in his journey. Yakiru jumps between the two and reveals that Kenpachi told her how a hollow possessed Masayoshi, as proven when his love for Sui and the memory of his wife's name were now gone. Yakiru also says that Masayoshi had killed his wife accidentally and mistook himself for some other hollow. Masayoshi at first does not believe it, but Yakiru insists. He begins to transform into the hollow in his panicked state. Just then, a hollow shows up behind Mayu, and Masayoshi jumps in and kills it, fatally wounding himself in the process. Masayoshi dies happily in Mayu's arms after having some konpito from Yakiru, remarking how good it is. Hitsugaya takes leave from the Seraite to visit Haru, a friend of his in the real world. Haru is a lonely old woman who can see spirits, because of which people find her strange and do not go near her. Before seeing her, he gets Karen Kurosaki involved in his visit. They both go to Haru's house and meet the spirit of a shy child named Yosuke. However, Hitsugaya hesitates from sending Yosuke to the Soul Society after hearing that he and his parents died in an accident on the way to a skiing trip, and that he wishes to see snow for the first time before resting in peace. Afterwards, Toshiro stays at Karen's house, where he is mistaken to be her boyfriend by many people. Later, it is revealed that Haru had been controlling Yosuke's transformation into a hollow with her own spiritual energy, and when she weakened, he went out of control. Haru, who is being held in Yosuke's hand, restrains him with her spiritual energy, giving Hitsugaya enough time to give the finishing blow. When the fight ends, it begins to snow in Karakura town, which allows Yosuke to leave happily. Karen says goodbye to Hitsugaya, who decides to visit his real grandmother in the Rukongai later.